Can the president of a country influence the outcome of a decision in international sport? That's the question at the center of today's discussion. And it's one that's generated strong reactions far beyond the football world. In this exchange, you'll hear reactions after. President Donald Trump publicly discussed contacting FIFA regarding the suspension of a US player following a red card. The comments have sparked debate about where the line should be drawn between political influence and the independence of sporting organizations. Is this simply a leader advocating for his country's team, or does it raise broader concerns about fairness, consistency, and the integrity of the rules? As you listen, pay attention to the different viewpoints. Some argue that public officials have every right to express concerns when they believe a decision is unfair, while others believe that once political influence affects sporting decisions, it creates a dangerous precedent. What do you think? Should world leaders ever try to influence decisions made by independent sporting bodies? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy thoughtful political commentary and discussions like this, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Now let's watch the discussion together, and afterward I'll share my thoughts on what stood out the most.
Less sensational, though, has been this decision by FIFA to allow a suspended US player to play in their round of 16 match tonight, something that the England manager Thomas Tuchel was asked about yesterday, because during the game against Mexico, England also had a player sent off.
Where does this start and where does this end now? Can we overturn it or not overturn it, or what is going on?
We'll seek to pursue, because, like you say, there's surely a chance. Where do you draw the line?
Yeah, where to draw the line is the question that I ask. I have no answer to that. Where does this end now?
Where does this end now? The story relates to a United States player called Folarin Balogun, who has perhaps been one of their better players in the tournament. Worth saying too, for context, the United States are meant to be playing Belgium tonight in their round of 16 knockout game. Balogun was sent off in their last match, in the US's last match against Bosnia, and which incurs a one-match suspension. But following a call between Gianni Infantino, the boss of FIFA, who handed out to President Trump an award to say the FIFA Peace Prize, following a call between him and President Trump, FIFA has taken the absolutely unheard of, never before enacted step of not rescinding the red card, which has happened, but saying the suspension of the player himself has now been suspended. Even Sepp Blatter, himself banned from football for ethical breaches and acquitted of fraud, says this is a step too far for the organisation. UEFA, the European Football Association, has said, "We express our disbelief at such an unprecedented, incomprehensible and unjustifiable decision." What I'm about to play you made me wonder whether or not we're living in a simulation, whether we are living in a parallel universe. Frankly, as the sun rose at 4:30 this morning on an England victory that took forever with every minute, the last one, the 90th minute played out over 101 minutes, that felt rather surreal. This goes further than that. And this is not a story just about the ins and outs of a particular football team, about the rules governing the game. You might not care about football, but this story still matters, because this now speaks to how absolute power corrupts absolutely, and how our American friends, newly minted at 250 years old, seem to have totally jettisoned any attempt at moral exceptionalism. Another example of how the shining city on the hill being left not glittering, but covered in thick algae and apparently unashamed to revel in it. Politics and sport have collided this afternoon, and the result is not pretty. President Trump has been speaking from the Oval Office about his attempts to pressure FIFA to allow what he calls the best player on the US team to play in their round of 16 match tonight, having been sent off in their previous game, normally incurring at least a one-match ban. Folks, pin your ears back. This will leave your jaw on the floor.
I did. I spoke to Johnny, who's highly respected, who's produced the most successful World Cup in history by, they say, 4 times. This isn't just a success. I actually said, Johnny, we've got all these games. Each one is turning out to be a Super Bowl. And we have all these games. You know, when you think of it, every game is like a Super Bowl. Yes, I watched last night. What a game that was with Mexico and England. I mean, two countries, I don't know the players, although I think Kane is a great player. See, I played golf with him, and I like him a lot. He's a good golfer. So I saw the play, and I'm a person that loves sports and was a good athlete. And I understand sports really well, really well. And that wasn't a foul. That wasn't even an infraction. That was two guys running full speed that happened to crash into each other. You can't take your foot and properly place it on somebody else's foot when you're going, no, these were two great athletes that got tangled up. And this referee, who is a little bit suspect, if you check his past, I don't want to say that because I don't like to create controversy, but very suspect. If you'd like, I'll provide you with the past. He made a call that nobody could believe. You know, even people on the other side, they say, oh, we got lucky. Wow, and it's very interesting. They say they don't show them in slow motion. And I never realized that. I never heard of that before. That they're not allowed to review in slow motion because it's so different. Because you'll take one little quarter of a second and you'll see that a hand is touching a neck or you see something. Whereas when you see it in fast motion, it will look like two guys collided, which is really what happened. They got sort of entangled. He didn't do anything wrong, and he's our best player or one of our best players, a very vital player. And he gave him a red card. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't think it meant much. Then I started hearing that means he can't play in the next game, at least in the next game. I said, boy, that's a big, if it happened to another player, it would have been unfair. But when they take your best player, or just about, they have some great players, and they say you can't play, that's very unfair. That's, it's one thing to penalize somebody for the game. But how do you penalize them for a game that hasn't been played yet? It's very unfair. You can't do that. So, yes, I asked for a review by FIFA. I spoke to a man who's highly respected, and by the way, whose level of respect has gone up tenfold. But all I did, I asked for a review because I didn't think it was a foul. And, again, I'm good at this stuff. I didn't think it was a foul. I thought it was two great athletes that crashed into each other and got entangled. That was not a guy punching somebody in the face or anything that, would be different. And I think it's a terrible, if they wouldn't allow, a top player, maybe the best, maybe among the best players on the team to play, I think it would have had a big stain. And I related just that feel. I didn't tell him what to do. I can't tell him what to do. But, and I don't believe he made the decision. I think it was a committee that made the decision. And they made the right decision because, number one, it wasn't a foul. And you want to see a game with your best players. You don't want to say, how would you feel if I took, we take Messi out? Look, he ran into somebody. Or we took Ronaldo, you bunked into somebody, we're going to take you out of a game. He's great. Or Harry Kane, we're going to take you out of the game, Harry, because you happen to hit somebody a little bit harder than you can't do that. If you would have taken him out, I think it would have really stained this incredible champion. We got to have our best players, and Belgium's got a great team, by the way. We got to have our best players, and they have to have their best. And if we win or we lose, it's fair. Otherwise, let's say we lost him and we lose the game. It would be a terrible thing. So I think they made a really brilliant decision. I think the referee's call was horrible. And nobody talks about that. They talk about the red card like it's fine. Nobody talks. The referee's decision to red card. I didn't know what the hell a red card was. When I found out, I said, you got to be kidding. This guy just hands up. Okay, your best player is not going to play next week or in the next game. I said, wow, that's a lot of power. That's terrible. But then I looked at his past, and it wasn't so good.
A man who starts by saying, I know everything there is to know about this sport, I really know what I'm talking about, admitting on multiple occasions he had no idea what the implication of a red card was in football. Not sure he knows the game back to front. Is there a more corrupt, pathetic, anti-sport, anti-fair play, utterly contemptuous organisation than FIFA. First they hand the Peace Prize out to Donald Trump, or whoop-de-doo. Then they destroy the rules of the game on the say-so of the president of the host country, who hasn't got a clue what he's on about. It is absolutely risible stuff, this. Is it not? And speaks not just to a football match, not just to the rules of the game, not just to the integrity of a sport loved by hundreds and hundreds of millions of people all over the world at their biggest marquee event for that sport all over the world, but to the corruption of absolute power and the inability of America generally, not just the President of the United States, but even the US men's football team is saying, hey, great decision, to jettison any idea of moral exceptionalism. They're not going to play the moral high card here. They're not going to think, actually, the rules are bigger than us. No, they're going to accept it, because that's what they've become. That is America in a nutshell. Happy birthday. There's no other word for it. We've just heard a description from the President of the United States. One, side issue, he played golf with Harry Kane. I wonder when they did that. Harry Kane's a very good golfer, by the way. And two, we've just heard from the President of the United States a description of corruption in action. That's what it is, isn't it? A decision made by FIFA to reinstate a player who'd previously been suspended based on the rules of the game, with no oversight, no explanation, no transparency about how that's happened, other than the President of the United States rang the boss of FIFA to say, I think you've got this one wrong, and it'd be a great shame to ruin the tournament, Gianni, if you don't put this player back on the pitch. Now, Caroline says this, and I have a lot of time for this, and Caroline, I understand why you would say this. Tom, I get the whole principle of the matter, but as a non-football fan, really don't care. Caroline, I completely understand. USA versus Belgium in a round of 16 game at a World Cup. You don't care. I understand that point. It's not just the football, though, is it? This is another example of a Trump administration being able to ride roughshod over rules, conventions, norms, in order to get what they want. Look at the story last week about Trump and money. The amount of money that the Trump family has made during the course of Trump's presidency. Completely unheard of, not normal, requiring of great scrutiny, not able to get it particularly. It's another example of the way in which the Trump administration wields power, but not also that, the way in which the Trump administration is acquiesced to, this time by FIFA, who, let's be honest, have had a long history of allegations of corruption. 03456060973. Martin's in Wakefield. Martin.
Hi, Tom. I think Trump has every right to intervene and to express his opinions on the matter. I think ultimately sport can never be completely non-political. I think there's always going to be political matters going on, and I was just thinking about the way in which the Djokovic saga unfolded in Australia, when there was this big hoo-ha about the vaccine, and the government of Australia really made it into a bit of a political football, so to speak. And so I think Donald Trump recognises that when an injustice takes place in America, when maybe a top player is unfairly treated, then he can intervene and he can air his beliefs publicly.
He feels that the player was unfairly treated. The professionals in the sport didn't feel that, and FIFA has the right, as other footballing bodies do, to rescind a red card post the event, to take it away, to realise they'd made a catastrophic error. They haven't done that.
Well, as I understand it, if there is a red card, they can sort of overturn it if they feel as if
they can rescind it, absolutely, but they haven't done that. They've just said, the suspension doesn't count.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've adjusted things to allow the guy to play, but... Yeah,
Martin, they've changed the rules of the sport on the say-so of the President of the United States, who openly admits he doesn't know what a red card is. Why have they done that?
I suppose because, Trump has a lot of sort of weight in terms of what he believes and what he...
OK, so where do we now draw the line? The King has a lot of weight in a lot of different matters and is quite friendly with the President of the United States. If the King decided to ring up the President and say, do you mind, you've got a good in with Gianni, do you mind putting a word in to say Jarell Quansah should be available for England's next game, should have his suspension overturned? What happens to the rules now?
I suppose they look at each individual instance on its own merits, and if they feel as if it's an injustice, I suppose what politicians can do is they can highlight an injustice when they think it's taken place. And if Trump feels as if it was an injustice that this player hasn't acted aggressively...
Trump might feel that, but Martin, it might not actually be true.
Well, I mean, anyone can sort of look up the clip online and they can see that actually it wasn't a deliberate aggressive act, and I think he was treated quite unfairly. And
in which case, FIFA rescinds the red card. But they haven't done that. They've just changed the rules to mean he's not suspended on the say-so of the President of the United States in a way that is completely lacking in transparency or precedent.
Yeah, I mean, it is ultimately a game, and I don't get too into sort of sport, but I think if it's an injustice that he was given a red card, they should absolutely rescind it, and so they should have done it properly. But I don't have too much against Trump, airing his opinions and, saying so when he thinks an injustice has taken place.
But an organisation like FIFA should say OK, even if they literally disagree. Do you think that's fine? You think that's good? Reasonable?
I think it's fine for them to look at the individual incident, and if they feel there's been some unfairness done, then I think, they can absolutely look at it and
they
change
haven't
that.
done that, Martin. Just to be really clear about it, I know you're not a football fan, that's fine, sir. They haven't done that. They were happy with the red card, because it happened ages ago, but it happened on Wednesday, so ever since Wednesday they've been OK with it, they've not rescinded it, they've not said, in hindsight, we made an error. Until the President of the United States rang 3 times, they thought it was OK.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the thing about Trump. He gets things done, he makes stuff happen, and it may not be the most elegant way of rescinding the outcome, but it's at least a fair consequence, considering he...
To what extent, Martin, do you think Keir Starmer has FIFA'd President Trump? In that Trump rings, Keir Starmer says yes, and up until the Iran war, we acquiesced to Trump on lots of different things. We bent the rules too.
I don't know about that. I suppose, Keir Starmer wants to be in his good books because they're such a powerful trading ally, and, you want to make, reasonable relations with the US, but, yeah, that's a fair point.
Martin, thank you. Bizarre. David's a first-time caller in Bicester. David.
Hi, Tom.
What do you think?
I couldn't disagree, or disagree more with what's just been on from Martin. I think now that this could break football, and I think UEFA need to take some action and threaten to withdraw. I think the threat itself may well change the opinions of some of those, Infantino, etc. I mean, you've got Sepp Blatter coming out and saying that, they're corrupt, one of the most corrupt presidents that FIFA has ever had.
Well, he was acquitted of fraud, but he was banned from involvement in football for ethical misgivings.
The other thing that I would say is that if I was a football player who'd been sent off at the World Cup, all the previous red cards, I'd sue for discrimination, for loss of earnings, damage to my profile. This is just one step too far. And I think the common man may well just turn around and... Well...
So who's in the wrong here? Is Trump in the wrong for pressuring FIFA, or are FIFA in the wrong for giving in? Should Trump have pressured them at all, or is this another example of an organisation, and sometimes we've seen countries do this too, give in, give ground, not put the principle higher than the president?
Well, I think it's an independent organisation, which has nothing to do with Trump. I get that he's phoning up. What happens if King Charles phones up and says, can you rescind the card for the England player that was sent off last night? Quanash, is it?
Quansah, Gerard Quansah.
Yeah. Quansah. Yeah. Sorry, I'm Scottish, and
no, I'm surprised you care, David. To be honest, if you're Scottish, surprised you're not.
I do care. I live in England, and have done for 50 years. But I think now it's too much interference, and I know it's too late, but there's trouble ahead for FIFA and Infantino.
And it tells the story again, in part, of the presidency, doesn't it? And there's a difference between Trump complaining about it and being told, nah, you're all right, you don't know what you're talking about, Mr. President, you don't know what a red card is, you hadn't heard of football before all this, and the body that he's complaining to actually giving in on it. David, thank you. Richard's in Reigate. Richard.
Tom, go for it. You're saying everything and more. this is a potentially a disaster. Your Scottish last caller has got it right, but it is a couple of things. I mean, we've got a red card for a reason, haven't we? I mean, I'm old enough to remember watching George Best getting hacked down. There really wasn't the defenders back in the day knew they had a couple of free shots, and it was up to him to dodge them. We now get a red card, which allows players to play. The automatic one-match ban is also there for a reason, because unless you discourage it, people will take advantage on the pitch. They'll play.
It just throws the whole thing into doubt, doesn't it? Which Trump has been very capable of doing on a whole slew of different issues.
Well, the fact it's a soft red. I agree with it. Was a soft red. It's on another day, maybe it'd have been given a yellow card. It doesn't matter. Last night we got Mexico scored from a soft free kick, didn't they? It's on another day that might not have been given.
So who's in the wrong, Richard? Sorry to drag you away from there. Who's in the wrong? Is it Trump for complaining or FIFA for giving in?
Well, both. FIFA is now as corrupt as Trump. And Trump, you couldn't. You listen to him talk, and you think he seems to believe what he's saying.
Someone at the governing body of the World Organisation of Football might have said, "You clearly don't know what you're talking about."
Where should the line be drawn? Is there ever a situation where political leaders should step in to challenge decisions made by independent sports organisations? Or should the rules apply equally regardless of who makes the phone call? I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments, because that's really the central question raised by this discussion. One of the strongest themes throughout this debate was the concern over consistency. Several participants argued that if established disciplinary procedures can be changed after outside political pressure, it naturally raises questions about fairness and whether every player would receive the same treatment under similar circumstances. That concern wasn't simply about one football match, it was about confidence in the integrity of the process itself. Others took a different view, suggesting that if an important mistake had been made, there was nothing wrong with a political leader voicing an opinion and asking for a review. From that perspective, speaking up isn't necessarily the issue. The bigger question becomes whether the governing body made its decision independently or whether outside influence played an inappropriate role. Another notable aspect of the discussion was the distinction between expressing an opinion and changing the outcome. Throughout the exchange, that difference kept resurfacing. Public figures often comment on sporting events, but many listeners questioned whether direct intervention with an organization responsible for enforcing the rules crosses into a different category altogether. Ultimately, this conversation became about much more than football. It touched on institutions, accountability, public trust, and whether rules should remain consistent regardless of status or political influence. Those are questions that extend well beyond sports and into many areas of public life. What did you think after hearing the debate? Were the concerns about fairness convincing? Or do you believe political leaders are entitled to advocate when they see what they believe is an injustice? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss future political debates and commentary. Thanks for watching, and remember, healthy debate is strongest when it's guided by facts, consistency, and respect for different viewpoints.